I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk. I live as a capitalist, okay? I live what I believe. No. What do? I get charity every single year.
Charlie Kirk is not a martyr for Christ, despite the claims on social media this week from the right. While we condemn his murder and the gun violence that led to it, we must also reject MAGA's efforts to portray him as something he was not.
I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
Why did you say that the civil rights bill should be overturned?
I didn't say that. I said it was a mistake.
Why? That's crazy.
Now you gotta figure it out.
I wouldn't be here. That's trouble.
Who's that? Who's that?
Pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
I saw a clip somewhere that you were trying to get the officer who murdered George Floyd pardoned, and I just want to know what your reasoning was about that.
Well, George Floyd didn't die because of the police officer. He died largely because of a drug overdose.
But he had his knee on his neck. We all saw the video.
But the knee on the neck is actually an approved police technique. 3 weeks ago, Blake, if we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. We know. It's very obvious to us that you were not smart enough to be able to get it on your own.
Charlie Kirk didn't just disagree with mainstream ideas, he attacked them head-on, often with language so inflammatory that critics accused him of inciting hatred, division and violence. To many, his words weren't just controversial, they were dangerous. On race, he said plainly, "We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act." He rejected affirmative action, diversity programs and equity initiatives, calling them anti-white discrimination. He questioned whether black professionals were qualified, saying, "If I see a black pilot, I hope he's qualified." He called diversity, equity and inclusion programs a bureaucratic cancer and claimed systemic racism was a myth. When George Floyd was murdered, he didn't focus on police brutality. He focused on defending the officers and attacking BLM, comparing the movement to the Ku Klux Klan. His take wasn't just political, it was racialized and unapologetic.
Christian minister here. Charlie Kirk is not a martyr for Christ, despite the claims on social media this week from the right. While we condemn his murder and the gun violence that led to it, we must also reject MAGA's efforts to portray him as something he was not. Kirk preached hatred and division as a white Christian nationalist, which contradicts Jesus' teachings. He preached anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, misogyny, and homophobia. Jesus said that the greatest commandment was to love. Kirk preached that empathy was weakness and that gun deaths are the cost of freedom. His death is tragic, and I'm thankful that the shooter has been apprehended. But the media should stop portraying him as a man of peace just following Jesus, when he was anything but. And yes, it dishonors the United States to award a white Christian nationalist the Presidential Medal of Freedom, as Donald Trump has promised. White Christian nationalism is a false gospel rooted in white supremacy. This week's violence was horrific and has been rightfully condemned. But that violence should not be used today to normalize, even celebrate, the hatred that white Christian nationalism embodies. All of us need to commit ourselves to nonviolence. Anything else is incompatible with democracy. May God bless our country, may God bless all of you, and may God bless the world. Peace be with you.
Kirk minimized gun violence repeatedly. He said it's worth it some gun deaths every year if it means we protect the Second Amendment. He argued that violence was the price of freedom, equating America's gun culture with liberty itself. When asked about transgender mass shooters, he replied, "Too many," despite the data showing otherwise. He used tragedy to reinforce ideology, often blaming liberal values, not violent individuals. He pushed the claim that arming citizens and righteous men was the answer to crime, not background checks or red flag laws. Critics said this wasn't just tone deaf, it was fueling an arms race. He opposed separation of church and state, calling it a lie of the left. He preached that America must become a Christian nation again, and that secularism was the death of truth.
Charlie Kirk advocated that the separation of church and state was fabricated, and it's not actually in the Constitution. I'm about to prove that wrong. First of all, we're going to read from my handy-dandy textbook. Well, a lot of you don't know what that is. Just showing you again. Amendment number 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Okay, nextly, I'm going to read what's behind me. Religious freedom in the United States is guaranteed by 2 provisions of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. One, commonly known as the Establishment Clause, has been interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court to prevent government from either advancing, that is, establishing, or hindering religion, preferring one religion over others, or favoring religion over non-religion. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
The separation of church and state goes back to a document that was written by our founding fathers, in which they were asking the question, where is the line of separation? Understand that when this nation was formed, it was formed by a number of colonies that were tired of the government controlling the church. That's what was happening all over Europe. The government and the church were one, and therefore there was no place for the freedom of expression. It was not just where you met on Sunday, it was the meeting house for all things related to the area around you. And so whenever they were talking about church and state, what they were saying is that the government should not control the church. Now, when Lyndon Baines Johnson was in the Senate, before he became a vice president and before he became President LBJ, he, in the middle of the night, passed a law called the Johnson Amendment, which he attached to another law, and it stated that the church cannot do anything to persuade people politically. Why? Because he realized that there were churches that were going to oppose his viewpoint in the Senate, and he was concerned he wasn't going to get reelected. The modern context of church and state is an absolute distortion of where it started from our founding fathers.
He said public schools were run by atheists, Marxists, and perverts, and encouraged parents to withdraw their children and homeschool them under biblical authority. His version of Christianity wasn't spiritual, it was militant, nationalistic, and exclusionary. Those who didn't fit his model, non-Christians, LGBTQ+ people, feminists, even moderate conservatives, were dismissed as enemies of God and country. He said that's how we get Auschwitz, justifying the mass termination of people because they're unwanted. He compared Planned Parenthood to Nazi death camps. His rhetoric around women's rights wasn't about morality, it was about domination. He didn't just oppose reproductive choice, he vilified it. Every disagreement became a battle between good and evil, with no middle ground. Charlie Kirk was not misunderstood, he was clear, his words were not vague, and his views were not moderate. He rejected tolerance, mocked inclusion, and sought to frame his ideology as the only legitimate path. He wasn't just controversial, he was calculated. Every quote, every speech, every headline fed the same machine: outrage, fear, and loyalty. And for millions, it worked, but the cost was enormous. His critics across politics, race, gender, and faith didn't just see him as wrong, they saw him as dangerous, as someone who dehumanized others for power, as someone who profited from hate, weaponized faith, and normalized cruelty. For them, the debate was over. Charlie Kirk didn't cross lines, he erased them. And in doing so, he left behind a legacy of division that no one can ignore.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk. I live as a capitalist, okay? I live what I believe.
No.
What do? I get charity every single year.
Hold on.
What's my
Charlie,
salary?
Charlie,
Less than his.
Charlie, take a
Come on,
seat.
Jake, let's go.
Charlie,
What are you doing? Sit.
take a seat. Take a seat.
Psycho.
All right, no. Take a seat. You're gonna take a seat. You're gonna take a seat over here.
Oh my God.
What's my salary?
All right.
Oh, ridiculous. All right, behave, everyone. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I practice what I preach, Jake.
Charlie.
You do not practice what you preach.
Charlie.